Hello, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and begin with our session. So thank you for joining us for the workshop number 273, Enhancing Sustainable Computing, Production, and Consumption. My name is Vural. I'm working at Habitat Association as International Relations Department Manager, and I will be moderating this session today. I would like to first start off with presenting our agenda. So I will be introducing our panelists and then provide a brief session introduction and then move on to covering policy questions with our speakers. And at the end, we're gonna have time for Q&A. So I want to start with Mohammad Atif Aleem. He is working as a business analyst at Tata Consultancy Services, and he is also Youth SIG's Regional Engagement Director for Asia Pacific. Jaewon Son, she is working as an advisor in Green Tech Alliance, also as capacity building lead at Youth for IG. Chineyenwa Okoro, she is a social entrepreneur and she's the founder and managing director of YCIG Create Hub. And Dr. Daniel Dasig, he is a telecom company executive, also a professor of De La Salle University das Marinas and serving in board of directors at Internet Society Philippines. So I want to provide a brief description of our session. So reports and analysis show us that the production have serious consequences on different levels, such as environmental, economic, and societal. And growing conscious digital consumers have an increasing demand for more advanced computing ways. And to satisfy such growing requirement of sustainable computing, production, consumption, and how to undo the effects of climate change and the degradation of environment is a vital subject of discussion. So our panelists today will be sharing their experiences in various fields and where these changes were inevitable and vital. So the issues we will be covering will be around the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals 9 and 12, which are focusing on and as a call to build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization and foster innovation, sustainable consumption and production, promoting resource and energy efficiency, sustainable infrastructure, and providing access to basic services, green and decent jobs, and better quality of life for all. So these SDGs, they play a vital role in addressing sustainable development issues without leaving anyone behind. And the current and emerging technologies for innovation and industrialization are expected to improve communities without compromising the environment. And looking into the demographics, many developing countries, they still lag in the Global Innovation Index based on their innovation performance. So therefore, engineers, scientists of the technical community, government, academia, civil society, basically various sectors and various backgrounds and other interested parties, they should be linked together as policymakers and policy takers to map these issues and also develop policies fostering efficiently sustainable computing, production, and consumption. Therefore, during this session, we are aiming to stimulate public interest in the effective development and transfer of environmentally sound technologies and establish tangible results through a partnership of the IG community and other stakeholders. So what we expect out of this session? First, we want to discuss the issues and the challenges and the scope of green economy, environmental rights and governance and regulatory frameworks and policies that are in the production and consumption. We aim to inform participants on these areas, and we would be aiming for them to engage themselves in these conversations even after the IGF. And we also want to stimulate discussions on the different effects and damages to the environment and also its impact on the vulnerable groups and communities. We are also expecting to advocate green economies and positive outcomes through collaboration and networking. And we all know that this could also lead to innovation, capacity building programs, and policy recommendations after IGF. We also want to raise awareness about different vulnerable and marginalized groups who are exposed in the digital world. And we also want to plan for launching an ethical online campaign to safeguard the interests of such groups, along with their means of sustainable livelihoods. And finally, we also want to encourage the policymakers to reform the laws to make it more inclusive and sustainable for all. So I want to move on to our policy questions that we will be discussing with our speakers. So our first policy question is, how do we advance sustainable and efficient computing production and consumption in the milieu of the fourth industrial revolution? And Jaewon, maybe we can start with you.
Thank you. As a person working on internet governance and environment, initially when I saw the question, I was wondering if the cloud engineers and computer scientists know about the concept of sustainable computing. So I asked one of the friends working at one of the biggest companies in Korea, like for internet, and she said she's never heard of like such a concept. So I believe not every environmentalist would have a good idea about it as well, but just knowing about the computer scientists not knowing about sustainable computing was quite a surprise to me. So in this regard, I believe having an environmental track finally on Internet Governance Forum would bring more people and multi-stakeholders having a discussion and letting the others aware more about the concept. So I believe we've made the initial step towards it. So one of the examples that have advanced the sustainable computing and production consumption in the first industrial revolution, I'd like to introduce Korea's recent digital New Deal. So to build back better and in response to COVID-19, Korea's investment is now being more focused on strengthening the data, AI, and network throughout the economy and fostering the on-tech industry by supporting the online activities and remote work among the SMEs so that they can create more job and more business opportunity in response to the economy that has been going down due to the COVID-19. So by investing on digitalization and infrastructure and technologies, we aim to utilize all the 5G and AI in all industries. And we believe initially it will lead to the sustainable growth all around the country, but not every country would be able to change into a digitalized society and the city. So we believe greater cooperation across the countries would be more than needed to strengthen and speed up the process. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. We can continue with Dr. Daniel.
Hi, everyone. As a member of the Internet Society Philippines and as a researcher and telecommunication company executive, um, I have seen over the years that the geography of innovation continues to shift, including the developing economies, with the most significant progress with those of underdeveloped. Looking at the political environment, education, infrastructure, and business sophistication. However, some of the developed and the regional leaders of innovations are also the most polluters in the world. So, although we have the polluters pay principle, um, we should look into um, what underpins pollution affecting land, water, and air, which derive from the use of the internet ecosystem. Further, while underdeveloped economies heavily rely on um, the primary sector economic activities, which directly impact the environment. Um, we need to forge and advance sustainable and efficient computing, production, and consumption, especially in this fourth industrial revolution era and COVID-19 pandemic. Um, we need to foster the use of services and related products which respond to the basic needs and bring a better quality of life to the society by not compromising the needs of tomorrow. So we need to bring into the table an innovation ecosystem and public policies that stimulate conversation towards the integration of the social, economic, and environmental objectives. Um, in my perspective as a professor at the basic stand of um, education sector by providing awareness campaign programs, partnership, because after all, we need the community intelligence. As we all know, there is no smarter than us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Chineyenwa, maybe we can continue with you. Okay. Mohammad, Atif, maybe we can continue with you.
I'm sorry, I can hear you now.
Oh, it's okay. Ms. Chineyenwa, let's hear from you then.
I think that, thank you everyone. I'm very excited to be here. I think that my colleagues have shared more light on this, and just to add a little bit to how we can advance sustainable efficient computing. I think education will play a major role to understanding, setting policies that need to be put in place. In the end, it all comes down to people and value for me. And we need to shape the future that works for all of us by putting people first, by empowering them with information and knowledge. Just like how Jaewon mentioned that there is a policy and even the scientists did not know about this. So education and information is very important in order to drive education, in order to drive information and implement certain policies. In the most pessimist and humanized form, we need to understand that the future of industrial revolution may indeed have a potential to robotize humanity and deprive us from our heart and soul. But we need to ensure that we incorporate creativity, empathy, and stewardship to the ways that we advance efficient production, consumption, and in computing. It's also very important that we lift humanity into a new collective and moral consciousness based on how we share information, based on how we implement certain policies, understanding that the environment is the center of it all. And people have a major role in playing. So in as much as we're identifying policies, we're identifying sustainable ways that are efficient, we also need to consider the human face in championing some of the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Mohammad Atif, let's have your input on this.
Okay, thank you very much. So yes, I think this is a very pertinent question about how do we advance sustainable and efficient computing, production, and consumption in the milieu of the fourth industrial revolution. So if we are talking about the fourth industrial revolution, or like many industries are abbreviating it as Industry 4.0. It is the ongoing automation of traditional manufacturing and industrial practices using most modern and smart technologies we have at hand. So many of the core of its agenda is in sync with what the policy question states, that how do we advance these. So definitely, as my panelists suggested, if we use the latest technologies, be it Internet of Things or be it approximate computing solutions, I think we can rightly advance the sustainable, efficient computing in the production and consumption area. So sustainable consumption and production, what basically it aims is at doing more and better with less. So in current critical times, we are already, all of us are sitting at home, and we aspire to do more and better with less, increasing the net welfare gains from all the economic activities. Because a sustainable development will be achieved not only by growing our economies, but minimizing waste in the process of doing so. So a lot of energy consumption is being there, since we are not cutting the traveling costs and other costs. And like growth that contaminates the environment sets development on a backward track. So I rightly agree with the other panelists that government and policy making also has a key role play in driving this sustainable and efficient computing efforts. For example, if I have to state, the UNDP Human Development Report points out that many developing countries lack the capacity and resources to assess climate-related risks. For instance, there is a severe lack of meteorological stations in sub-Saharan Africa region, where farmers mostly depend on rain-fed agriculture. So there's basically a more need of information and communications technology to penetrate these vulnerable regions, and so that we can adapt to climate change. So the more penetration of digital is there, the better it is for production and consumption activities. That is my view on this policy question. Thank you.
Thank you for your inputs. I'm going to move on to the second policy question. And that is, how can we guarantee good use of the internet without harming the environment? I would like to first start with Dr. Daniel for this question. I think you're muted. I'm still muted.
All right. So can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Thank you. So the internet has completely changed our lives. And with the current ramifications of the fourth industrial revolution, Milieu, or it was characterized with um, more connected or interconnected end devices like our smartphones, um, computers, laptops, servers. Because of this demand of the fourth industrial revolution, from extraction of the rare minerals from the earth to the manufacturing of these electronic devices to hosting data center operations in managing the services that we are using as end users, including the infrastructure services towards the temporal and permanent flow of data online. We have had a huge impact to towards digital footprints and higher energy consumption. More importantly, with the COVID-19 pandemic, more issues resonated with the higher demands of telecommuting. It's a work from home setup, telework modalities, which requires more data centers. And so these data centers requiring more energy to be consumed, and thus contributes to carbon emission. So how can we foster or guarantee good use of internet without harming the environment? Well, actually, we can reduce um, by way of doing um, household, occupational, or um, into a global landscape of reduction of our digital footprints. So at a large part of energy consumption being linked to internet use nowadays comes from actually the bad use of our equipment. And I think on the enterprise level, on the corporate level, we can develop policies which transcends IT policies, equipment or asset management that allows employees, um, our users to be responsible in the consumption of um, um, cloud services, because reduction of cloud services constitutes reduction of energy consumption in the data center, so as to limits of video streaming, as large volume of video streamings constitute as well with um, high energy consumption on the aspect of data center um, and infrastructure management. Looking into um, the industrial technologies, many consumers also continue to use fourth generation technology at home instead of using the Wi-Fi, which consumes less energy when you're using mobile network. So we need to educate, we need to establish local, national, or global policies which advocates responsible consumption at the household level, at the national, regional, or the global space. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Jaewon, maybe we can continue with you for your inputs on this policy question.
Sure. When it's easy to imagine the SO2 coming out from core consumption, I think not many people realize the impact of email. Like, for example, if you have long emails with all of the attachment, it can have a carbon footprint of like 50 grams. And it's because they use all the data centers and the computers spend the energy in sending, filtering, reading all the messages. So minding about the influences of the internet, I think we should talk about what can internet do for the environment. So along with the digital New Deal, Korea is also having a Green New Deal, and it's a response to the climate change. So government is planning to transform the public urban areas into green zero energy, as well as the building with the clean water supply system to secure the drinking water supply and strengthen the disaster prevention, utilizing the IoT and AI. I think not many people are familiarized with the IoT and water disaster management, so I would like to just touch a bit upon that. And in Asia Pacific region, there are still thousands, billions of people having loss in economic and social loss due to the water-related disasters. And when there's like tsunami and large-scale disasters, it's really hard to observe the areas by going there. So when there's a disaster with the large disaster, the IoT can be utilized by having satellite images so that they can look around without going there to see the immediate aftermath of the disaster. So by detecting the surface of natural disaster area, utilizing the AI and satellite image that have been processed by the specialized computing, and then move on to the person who has been specialized with all the geometrics and stuff. That way, it has been used to save the people and deal with the environmental disaster that might have came with the climate change. So as a result, utilizing the IoT and or the internet technologies, advanced technologies, has been increased in the field of the disaster management, and it's been an extremely useful tool to having an immediate follow-up for the flood or hurricane or any other natural disaster. So I believe internet have a say or useful in terms of those kind of environment disasters. Thank you.
Thank you. Mohammad, Atif, we can have your inputs on this policy question.
Okay, so I completely agree with the panelists here. So, to guarantee good use of internet without harming the environment, first of all, I think it's very necessary that we understand our digital carbon footprint. So it was quite uh, I mean, I was amazed at like knowing that a computer scientist is not knowing about how much carbon footprint is generated out of a data center, or for that matter, because it's very necessary that we have knowledge about that. Then only we can take those actions that my fellow panelist mentioned about. And every time we perform, like Jaewon mentioned about emails, so even performing simple daily actions like browsing a website, sending and receiving email, using an app on our phone, saving a file, or be it using cloud storage, searching on Google, data gets transferred between our devices and the servers that the websites or software are hosted on. So the more the data is sent and stored, the more electricity and energy is needed, even though at an individual it seems relatively small, but when multiplied by billions of people globally that are now connected to the internet, it really amounts up very fast. So the IT industry's greenhouse gas emissions are predicted to reach 14% of global emissions by 2040. And the United Nations International Telecommunications Union has set the industry the target of reducing its emissions by 45% over the next decade. So one interesting thing that we as like a good netizens, responsible netizens can do is to make directory of or check the directory of the server that our website is hosted on. For that, many tools are there. For example, there is one tool called the Green Web Foundation, which maintains a directory of all server data centers and hosting providers using 100% renewable energy. So they have a free tool on their website which allows you to test any website URL and discover whether it's powered on 100% renewable energy or just using fossil fuels. So because it's more important to make sure that companies that are building the internet are switching to renewable and phasing out fossil fuels, because that's when the searching will be more guilt free. And if I have to talk about my individual company, so even IT companies in India are taking steps to make green buildings, green offices. But in a remote location for now, I think it's more about the data centers which needs to run on renewable energy rather than the conventional fossil fuels one that we have been running on. So that is how we can guarantee good use of internet without having much effect on the environment. Yes.
Thank you very much. And I would like to also give floor to Chineyenwa for her inputs.
Thank you so much. I think Mohammed really hit on some of the points that I was going to make. By far, the most significant contributor of our individual internet carbon footprints come from streaming videos, watching Netflix, amongst other things. And we need to, as people, be able to educate us. We need to be able to facilitate education to get people to understand what their carbon footprint as individually, and even like you mentioned, the internets that we use, what is their capacity, are they looking at renewable or fossil, however, and also looking at how the pandemic has made quite a number of us focus on doing more stuff online than we would do in person. So I'll just share a few painless opportunities at which we can reduce our own footprint as individuals, because even though we are looking to pass on policies, I feel like as individuals, we have the major role to play in ensuring and making sure that those policies are implemented by what? Changing ourselves and changing our behaviors as well. So we can try to use, use our phones more than using our laptops because of the electricity voltage that is used. It's very important. We can also unsubscribe from emails and mailing lists. I think all of the speakers touched on this, the importance of understanding what carbon footprint you're making by leaving all of those mails in your newsletters that most of us mostly never even open. And also consider using cloud-based storage as compared to having most of this stored on your devices, on your phone. I was interested to find out that Google operates some of the most highly efficient data centers in the world. And it's been one of the largest corporate purchasers of renewable energy. So we can consider, put backing up pictures, purchased on cloud as compared to using, as Manan, you mentioned, I think Mohammad mentioned Green Web Foundation as well, where they can give you a list, an endless list of organizations, Green Web hosting, for those of us who are into the technology space and developing softwares and amongst other things, where you could use a green hosting site to host your softwares, however, and just really just understanding that every single imprint that you make on the internet has a ripple effect on the environment one way or the other. So we need to create that cautious education to let people know of the endless opportunities that are available and how they can access and utilize them. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of our speakers who provided input for the question number 2. Let's move on to the third question. This one is on SDGs. So how can SDGs 9, 12, 11, and 13 will be fostered digitally and lower the impact on the environment? Atif, maybe we can begin with you for this one.
Okay, so I basically think that information and communication technologies can help progress towards every single of the 17 United Nations SDGs goals that are mentioned there. So, I mean, be it helping to build resilient infrastructure for promoting inclusive, sustainable industrialization and fostering innovation, which is SDG 9. A lot of ICT infrastructure is still being leveraged to for the use of these services. Like for example, there's edutech startups or there are food delivery startups that, and a lot of innovation in the e-commerce sector has come up, which leverages this SDG. Which and contributes to SDG 9 by using a robust technology framework. Then, if I have to talk about SDG 12, it is responsible consumption and production. So, one of the issues is of e-waste by the information and communication technology. So, if this e-waste can be tackled, like global strategies and standards and policies can be laid down by the government, because during the pandemic, a lot of our dependence has been there on the electronic fora of the items and digital medium. So a lot of e-waste being generated, if they can be disposed of sustainably, then we can make some good progress. Apart from that, if I have to talk about climate action, climate change action, then it again revolves around green data centers and green power feeding systems for information and communication technologies. So it's basically upon organizations to plug in those sustainable parameters in whatever their scope of business is in the digital media. And if they can do that and maintain the dichotomy between sustainability and profits, because we have to do that if we want to make a sustainable environment and commit to the goals of sustainable development. So that will be the key, I think, maintaining the dichotomy between sustainability and profits for larger organizations to steer these SDG goals of 9, 11, and 12 and 13. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Daniel, we can move on to your contribution.
Thank you. So, with the full effect of the COVID-19 pandemic, information and communication technologies have been on the front lines in doing the response and mitigating the risk. The crisis has actually leveled the world. Um, the crisis has also accelerated digitalization of the many businesses and services, and that includes um, those other sectors of the economy. Now, I'd like to cite an example of um, a service industry innovation, which fostered um, digitalization, but while providing the needs of the communities and the cities. Um, in the Philippines, we have um, the Grab, the Lala Move. These are um, service delivery provider, which allows the Filipino people to order, place their order online, and um, their products ordered food are delivered at their doorstep. And so with this, um, ICT has actually, aside from it leveled the world, it provided access to healthcare, um, to food security, to education nowadays, while subscribing to the essential goods and services. And so, um, on the other note of responsible consumption and production, ICT has also leveraged the manufacturing sector with the use of Internet of Things or the IoT, artificial intelligence, which has removed um, the manpower in the production line. And so, with the removal of the manpower going towards the robotics application, um, it has indeed reduced more energy consumption because of the automation and the robotics application. And in the service industry and manufacturing sector, with the application of the lean manufacturing, lean IT, and green IT or green data center, um, we have reduced the carbon emission while we are sustaining the needs of our communities and developing these communities into becoming a smart communities and cities. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Chineyenwa, maybe we can go on with your contribution.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear
Sometimes
you.
it feels like it's off and on, so I'm not quite sure. Thank you so much for that question. Now, for me, understanding the SDGs and how we can lower the impacts that are fostered digitally, we need to look at it from the targets. I'd like to highlight the targets on SDG 9.3, said looking at how we can increase the access of small-scale industrial and other enterprises, particularly in developing countries, to financial services, including affordable credit and their integration into value chain and markets. I feel like it's very important that they are able to have access to certain information and certain skills that can enable them scale up their value chains in order to marginalize impact. Because some of the challenges that they face, or would I say that is affected in these different areas, is around people not being able to have the necessary enabling infrastructure to be able to structure across board, and that way they are not able to manage any form of impact, not to think about lowering the impact. So the challenges around providing them with affordable credit in order to integrate is very, very important. Another area that I would like to talk about is supporting green initiatives to equip the different sectors or the different actors across the world, and to understand the challenges and the opportunities of the coming transition, and to help them take up role that must play in managing the necessary change in a way that they could also look at lowering their impact, especially with regards to environmental sustainability. It will further build the case that a decent work approaches a social dialogue in order to be able to drive a truly transformative change. So providing them the necessary skills, capacity, and education and information, and also financial needs would help lower the impact digitally. That way, they are able to marginalize certain information in a way that it's clear, in a way that it's approachable, in a way that it's relatable, and in a way that they can actually create any form of transformational change via that process. Thank you.
Thank you. We can move to Ms. Jaewon.
Sure. I think there are several ways to contribute to those SDGs while having lower impact to environment. For example, to conserve the energy, I think we should implement the intelligent, smart grid system, expanding the clean and renewable energies like wind, solar, and hydroelectronic power, while to minimize the pollution, building smart factories that reuses the industrial heat and waste can be helpful. But like while investing on the green innovations through R&D and financial sector, I think green tech business can be promoted, and those businesses would like use less carbon footprint while leading the green industry. So I think it would be really helpful. While we can also support the technical implementation of clean plants for reducing the contamination and establish the low carbon and green industrial complex. So in conclusion, adding the digital innovation to urban spaces and building smart logistic distribution system would be a key to contribute to enhancing sustainable computing production and consumption with the good influence to the environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of our speakers for their contributions. I want to move on to the next policy question. So what is the role of quality education in enhancing sustainable initiatives? I would like to start with Dr. Daniel for this one.
Thank you. I'd like to answer that directly. Educational development and management of educational institutions should transcend at enhancing quality education as a cornerstone of sustainable development goals. Students are exposed to communal, real societal issues, ground realities, and the current ramifications. So good education will advocate open innovation that encourage students and teachers to explore and investigate problems and uncover and promote novel ideas and advocate innovation as a solution. Quality education will also transform the educational landscape from curriculum design to delivery and assessment. The frameworks, policies, and standards and models of sustainability of transformative, relevant, and socially significant educational modalities will strengthen the teacher's competency and students' holistic development as our future leaders. Quality education also enhances sustainable initiatives as it guarantees open-minded, innovative, service-oriented, relevant, and socially responsible global citizens. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Atif, would you want to take the floor? You're muted.
Oh, yeah, hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, it's perfect.
So
Thanks.
I think the role of quality education in enhancing sustainable initiatives is immense. And I was just browsing through some of the questions, and see a very pertinent question asked in this in terms of education only. Like Veronica asked if we as panelists know any country where sustainable computing is in the curriculum of IT degrees at the universities. So I would like to mention that being a minor of information technology, I didn't have a dedicated subject to sustainable computing. Only a part of it was in some of the chapters of computing architecture and also e-waste. So it's very important for academia institutions and for private companies and for especially for technology enabled companies to develop partnerships with in collaborative partnerships with research think tanks to deliver lectures to students where they can explain them the role of effective sustainable computing, because unless and until the coming generation doesn't know the effects of what effects harmful effects the computing can have, they will not be able to do the coding analysis and develop solutions for it. And now I think since we have been coming up with a lot of ICTs now, and there's a concept of associated energy with respect to each transaction that is made, and even the data has been at the forefront, like data is the new oil. So a lot of transition has moved on to data science. So yes, there is a huge gap in terms of still imparting quality education for sustainable computing. So I think that gap can be filled by research institutions, by academia, if they develop partnerships and include them in their curricula to impart newer ways of technology and what all latest developments are there. Then I think the youth has the capability to solve and tackle these challenges. So definitely a big positive yes from my side, I think.
Thank you. Chineyenwa, could we have your input on this subject?
Yeah, thank you. This is very, very important. Thank you, especially to the work that we do at the Waste to Create Hub, where education is a lifeline or the life process of the entire work that we do. Now, quality education for sustainable initiative is paramount because of the role that we think that young people especially have key ideas and ways that sustainable innovations can solve some of the challenges even around sustainable computing, consumption, production, amongst other things. I'd like to highlight an organization in Malaysia called the BGBG initiative. They have a maker space and a fab lab called Maraka. And part of what they do is educate people on how they can use STEAM-based technologies and STEAM-based approach in developing some of their ideas and some of their innovations as a way of driving education in a more practical way in Malaysia. And we're very excited to have partnered with them earlier this year to drive more education on sustainability as a focus place in technical skills like production, producing, packaging, coming up with new product design, circular economy, circular product and design, amongst other things. So I think quality education is important. In Africa, when you think about education from a particular perspective, you would understand that the curriculums are different. But if you look at it from a sustainable point of view, which is one thing the Waste of Great Hub is doing currently, is to look at how we can incorporate STEAM-based solutions as part of streamlined curriculums of students, even with the master classes and side school programs that we run with the secondary schools and also with some of the university students. So quality education is important because it will help give them a general perspective. Research is also important because when you're able to come up with streamlined blueprint solutions as to what it means to even consider sustainable computing as a course in the university, then you realize that there needs to be more information that needs to come out for that process to be seamless. So I would say that sustainable initiatives will drive these innovations with the necessary capacity, with the necessary information, with funding, financial enablement, to be able to research more and find out practical information that they can use to be able to drive impact in the long run.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ms. Jaewon, can we also have your contribution?
Yep. So when you're making a pair of jeans, it requires like 10,000 liters of water, and to make it into a denim jean, you use the toxic coloring material, and some of it, when it goes to a waterway, it really harms the environment. But when people know about the fact that the plastic bag is really harmful for environment, they do not know when they're buying a blue jean that they're harming the environment. So if they are aware and being educated about the decision they are making and what it is being influenced to environment and stuff like that, they might have not buying the blue jean or maybe not buying anything at all. So education would make more informed consumers and make them having more responsible decision. So I think this shows the quality education is taking place when it is enhancing the sustainable initiative and building onto the more informed consumers. Not to mention that everyone should have more access to education when it is being digitalized. I just wanted to highlight we should more encourage like interdisciplinary department and research so that more people will know the linkage between environment, sustainability, and internet, and share others why is it important and how is it linked between each other. Because these days in university, everything is so specialized and not every department know about the link between each other and stuff like that. And I think in this digitalized world, we should more promote having a interlinked research and everything. Not to mention about the multi-stakeholder model and policy making process. Not many people know about why is it important and why is it important for everyone to be engaged all together. So if we educate them about why is it necessary for every stakeholder to be engaged in the policy process and how can it stop the visual cycle and everything, I think it will be a first way to have more sustainable initiative. I will stop here.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the contributions for this policy question. I'm going to move on to our last policy question that we're going to cover during our session today. And that is, how can gender equality be promoted through digital ways and in the associated SDGs for equitable distribution and representation? For this final question, I want to begin with Chineyenwa.
Okay, thank you for this question, AJ. How can gender equality be promoted through digital ways? It's endless. As we can already see, educations and campaigns and different ways at which people are raising awareness, which ways people are looking at an inclusive way of representing, all forms, genders in communication. I think the internet has enabled, or would I say, technology has enabled the seamless process of that. But even at that, there's still more work that needs to be done in terms of ensuring that gender equality is targeted and mainstream, especially when you're looking at it from a representation point of view, especially. So when you think about the conversations around how women are, not necessarily men or women are represented in certain areas with regards to digital communication, you realize that the SDG has highlighted several ways at which we can do that. Looking at it from the different targets, it's also very important that we consider that as a mainstream way of communicating, to ensure that that people who kind of like are in the digital space know that it's important to do so. And looking at the policies, I really don't know much around the policy around gender equality mainstream distribution. Maybe Jaewon or Mohammad can touch a bit on that. But one thing that I know for sure is that the technology and the digital solutions that enable that process, the promotion of it, educating people, incorporating people, creating an inclusive space has been done, but there is still a lot more work that needs to be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Atif, maybe we can continue with you.
Okay, yeah, thanks. Thank you for your input, Chineyenwa. And I think you were very right about how equality, gender equality, there are innumerable ways and non-exhaustive ways of promoting digital ways and in terms of SDGs for equitable distribution and representation. So if we go into like statistical terms, so I saw that there's difference, significant differences between female and labor male labor force participation rates. Like globally, it's around somewhere close to 63% women versus 94% women. As well as twofold representation of women in informal and precarious employment. Around only 11% of executive positions at Silicon Valley companies are female. So even in the digital fora, there has been some less numbers. In Even in the Fortune 500 companies, around it comes to around 5% of the CEOs who are women. So when we talk about representation, they have been relatively low, but it has been increasing in the recent times. For example, there was a stark increase in the Indonesian region, where in the e-commerce, around 34% of the women labor force was there, and it has been increasing since then. But if we talk about starker economies like in the global south, for example, in India, we have around 14% of business owners who are women. So it again boils down to about spreading information about how women can participate in the digital fora on an equal footing and even do better than their other counterparts. So it's just about that, and there are innumerable opportunities for that. For example, many corporations are launching gender-based, saying opportunities, creating opportunities from the view of gender lens, and promoting women to come forward and participate and contribute for the cause of SDGs. Even if we are a large part of the Indian economy is about agriculture, so there has been a rise, a very good statistic report that I saw, that there has been a rise in female agripreneurs that are there. So if we see a rise in female agripreneurs, definitely there is a lot of the future of work in terms of agriculture would be digital farming. So if these female agripreneurs can be taught the basics about digital farming, about how weather predictions and field modelings could be done to have better yields of crops, then that goal of SDG 12 of better production and consumption will automatically be catered to, and a large contribution of it would be can be attributed to a gender specific lens. So it has a huge scope, as I said, and there are some very good NGOs. For example, even the United Nations Women Wing is helping to empower women and girls across all its programs and advocacy. They launch very exciting campaigns and advocacy programs related to all the SDGs, where they invite female agripreneurs, female leaders, or technologists who are working or bringing radical changes in their society. So I would, even in this session, I would like to encourage all our participants to actively reach out for these opportunities and compete in that with an equal footing. Yeah. And the rest would be good, and the numbers will automatically increase. So that's what I think about this one.
Thank you very much. I want to move on to Ms. Jaewon for her inputs.
Sure. Thank you for touching upon the percentage of women in global tech workforce. along with the statistic, I've also seen 73% of women has been exposed to or experienced the violence online. And I think having a digital skill would allow people to protect themselves from the cyber harassment. While the social media can be a risk of having those abuse, it can be also used as a tool to express themselves and promote gender equality. For example, there has been a hashtag #MeToo, and I think it was a good example of promoting the gender equality among the social media. So currently, the gap between digital skills are wider in older, less educated, and poor women, especially in remote area and developing countries. I think working on nurturing them and investing on shifting toward digital economy is essential to provide the increased access to online resources for those people, especially during pandemic, so that everyone can be benefit from it. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Mr. Daniel, we can have your inputs for this policy question. Could you unmute your microphone?
All right. So I agree with the inputs from my colleagues that gender equality, besides from being a fundamental human right, it is also an essential element to achieve peaceful societies and with full human potential for sustainable development. And in this digital age, media has a key role in shaping issues. And if women are excluded from the process, then we would have an emblematic way of how society um, will exclude women from giving them due voice. And so, while it is true that there are advancements of um, women participating in the global average, although they have less understanding of technology based on some researches, fewer digital skills, less presence on online platforms, and are less likely to own mobile or technological devices. So we need to further advocate and advance initiatives and programs for women to um, achieve digital literacy, including their access to digital devices and technologies with the affordability of the same technologies. So I think we need to educate women to use these tools proficiently so that they can also shape their own strategy and participate in some narratives and conversation. Um, to this end, I'd like to view that education is the key. So we need to educate more women and girls because good quality education will lead to innovation, innovative and sustainable initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We don't have much time left, so I want to move on to Q&A. We have two questions from the audience during this session. Do you know any country where sustainable computing is the curriculum of IT degrees at universities? Jaewon, would you please answer to this one?
Sure. Thank you for the question. As far as I know, Australian National University ANU offers the ICT sustainability as their part of the master courses in technology and engineering master program. And I'm not sure if I'm right in pronouncing. I just put it on the chat. So Athabasca, this university also have like green ICT strategic courses. But if you want to have kind of a degree with the sustainable computing in UK, there's Leeds Beckett University. Let me type it here. So this university offers a master program in sustainable computing program. So I think you can check up those university website and see if there's anything that you might be interested.
Yeah.
Do you have any inputs for this question, Mr. Daniel?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I'm teaching in the graduate program of De La Salle University, Das Marinas in the Philippines. And part of the curriculum is um, technology and project management and emerging technologies. So these courses anchors with the green IT computing. We also have the lean project management, which coincides with the sustainable computing as part of the curriculum. So, well, it's it's a good question because in the design of emerging technologies, we need to consider a technology roadmap. And in building technology roadmap, you need to look at the space of the environment, um, um, its its impact in the society, with of course the best political, economic, social, and technological. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to the second question. It is actually more a discussion question. So it is true that cloud-based storing solutions pollute less than the local storage. However, for many organizations, local storage is a matter of security. The trade-off between environment and security is a difficult one to manage. Mr. Atif, would you prefer to answer this one?
Yes, I can take this one. So to answer Marco, it's not exactly true. I haven't seen any comparison between cloud-based storing solutions or local storage, but definitely cloud-based solutions are more energy efficient, because if you are using in-house data centers, it requires several servers and backup systems to be running 24 into 7, and that will take a lot of energy in terms of generated carbon footprint. So definitely if we compare it that wise, energy efficiency wise, then a cloud is a more suggested alternative. And it also has the benefit of allowing remote working and having a paperless mode of working. Also, one negative point with the cloud is that it all bounds to like the data centers where the large amount of data is being stored. For example, AWS, the Amazon Web Services, majority of its data centers are in Virginia, and it has committed to create the new data centers on 100% renewable energy. But the old ones, the majority, 70% of their data centers still run on other sources of energy apart from renewable. So that was a concern that some environmentalists also raised, and Jeff Bezos have catered to that by announcing that he would be opening new data centers which will be fully run on renewable energy. So as you mentioned, absolutely the trade-off between technology and sustainability is a very tough nut to crack, but with time we will be realizing that it's a very important step rather. A lot of steps are being taken, and I hope these will be for the good. So for now you can store your data on cloud, so there's no issue. So let the technology companies handle them their data centers. So yeah, on that note I would like to end this. Yeah.
Is there any other contributions for this question?
Yeah, I'd like to answer that good question because the cloud services with the ramifications of the fourth industrial revolution, and Philippines, for example, is one of the um, outsourcing hub in the world. So subscribing to cloud services will will actually reduce carbon emission from the data center, because by instead of putting up your own data center, um, procuring your own servers and having your own staff to mobilize, and having the personnel to do the security and all IT staffs. Subscribing to cloud services is one of the best outsourcing model that you can employ as an organization. Secondly, having the cloud services will entail financial efficiency and personal efficiency as well. So I'd like to agree with the green computing initiative mentioned by Atif as to enterprise and organizational level. And I think I'd like to end that. Thank you.
So one update is also there. So there's a new technology called distributed cloud, which is coming. So instead of having multiple data centers, they will create replicas of that. So that will further reduce the carbon emissions. But it will have still have a long way to implement that industry wide. So steps have been taken by companies. You can log on to Ericsson and the IBM like resource centers, and you'll see a lot of resource materials on how cloud is making greener initiatives. So that's one suggestion I would like to give. Yeah, that's all.
I would like to say thank you for all of our speakers for their contributions on the policy. Yeah, we went over time, so thank you for the IGF for letting us talk. And I wish everybody a nice day.
I think we can quickly have a quick photograph. Can you allow that for 1 minute, Victor? Oh, sure. I think any one of us can maybe click a photo with, or even if we can have participants. Yeah.
You can use the print screen as well.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and take.
I'm making some already, so I can send it over.
Okay, great.
Okay, so we can make two faces.
Okay.
Awesome. Got it. Thank you.
Okay.
This is your host speaking again. Thank you for your participation at the IGF 2020. Please leave your feedback through a form you will be automatically redirected to at the closure of this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you
very much.
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you everyone for your time. It was a great session. I enjoyed myself. Thank you.
Thank you.